G'day, I'm David, Stonehill Pump and Irrigation Services in the Hawkesbury district of New South Wales, and today we're going to go through how I go about cleaning a bore pump or a well. And we're going to use this product down here. This is called Clearbore. On a regular basis, once every year, we do a light Clearbore treatment as a preventative to make sure this keeps on working. This morning I've got Colin with me from Clearbore. I'll go through the setup. I use a good old-fashioned wheelie bin, and I put my chemical in here and I let it recirculate. You can pour the raw chemical down the well, but it's an expensive product and I don't like to guess that it's going to be dissolved. I like to make sure that it is dissolved. So I dissolve it in the drum before I let it go down the well. That way I know the customer's getting best value for their money. So what I've got on here is I've got a supply of water coming into the bottom of the barrel. I've got an elbow pointing down, and that pushes the water to the bottom of the barrel and allows it to stir up all the chemical properly. And then out of the top here, we're going to run the overflow back down the well. So I'll get the muscle involved here and we'll just lift this pump up a fraction. That's him, perfect. And what's going to happen now is, as this fills up with water, it's going to dissolve the chemical and it's going to run back down that well. Okay, so as I've said to you before, we're using Clearbore. It's a granular powder. It becomes fairly compacted in here during transport. So we need to really break it up and dissolve it. But I want people to take note of what's on the back of this, and this dosage table here is really important. The well we're using today is a 6-inch well, so we come down here to 150 millimetre and we need 880 grams per metre of water. You can drop that dose rate if it's a maintenance dose, but if it is a highly crusted bore, you really do need to use that full dose rate. We'll open up the drum. Let's have a look what we've got inside. There's a little container in there. Save that for later. That's what we're going to use after we've finished treating the bore. And you'll find a little packet of potassium permanganate in there. Again, save that for later. We will use that later today. Now we've got 20 kilos of Clearbore. We've got to get it out of the drum, tip him in. Now there's a couple of ways to dissolve this, and I like doing a combination. What I'll do to start with is I'll shut the bore off so it doesn't head out to any of the paddocks around here. Okay, so in summary, the most important thing to do is make sure there is water flowing with the well. If there's no water flowing, we can't do a Clearbore treatment. Once we've done that, we've calculated the quantity of Clearbore we're using, we then need to dissolve it. Now we can dissolve it using warm water or hot water. We can dissolve it using a paint stirrer, such as this, or we can use the recirculation method, which I've got here. Doesn't matter which way you use the product, but it is important the product is dissolved before it goes down that well. My preferred method of doing a Clearbore treatment is really doing it through a tank. I can monitor what's going on. I can see colour changes. I can tell when the treatment's done. When we come back later today, we'll see something different again. But there's so many colour changes and things that will happen. If you're just pumping it straight out of the well, back down the well, you can't monitor those changes. You can't see what's happening. So it's up to you how you put the chemical in. The biggest problem is, how do you modify your bore? Sometimes I would disconnect the pipe down here and put it straight back in, particularly on low yielding bores, but it really depends how that bore's been set up to start with. But again, this is quite a high yielding bore, so it gives me a lot of opportunities, and the way it's been set up allows me to take water out and recirculate it quite easily. And because we're doing an annual treatment on this bore, we've set it up in such a way that it is very easy to do a treatment. The other use for Clearbore is in your workshop, and maybe it's not to every mum and dad or farmer even around the place, but definitely the pump technician. At the lower dose rate of 2.5%, this is great in the workshop. If we're pulling pumps down and doing repairs, you can soak the components of the pump in the Clearbore solution and it gets all the scale and everything off those pump parts. We're still agitating the chemical from within the bottom. It's flowing to the top, it's flowing back into the bore, it's recirculating nicely. We're going to let this run for a minimum of 6 hours. So I'm just going to shut the lid and we'll come back in a few hours. So we've been running for just over 6 hours now, and nothing's really changed. If we, whoa, a bit of gas coming out. You can smell it too. There is a visible change in colour. It's quite a yellowy mustard type colour. So we've had quite a change. Sometimes this gets very frothy and foamy, sometimes it doesn't. It just depends what the composition of the contaminants are within the well. But we've got to a stage where we're going to pump this out now and get rid of it. Now, I want to stress, this is a maintenance dose for this bore. We're not going to get any huge improvements in the performance. But some bores, yeah, the performance difference is massive. But because this one's done on a regular basis, we're just keeping it running at its peak condition. Okay, so we're ready to start pumping the chemical out, and I'm just going to remove this hose. You know, we've got a great flow rate there, but we did to start with. So we're not expecting a huge improvement on this well, but if your well has not been treated for a substantial number of years, I would expect you would see a massive improvement in that flow rate. We're going to run this until the water comes clean. We're then going to test it with potassium permanganate, and I'll show you that test shortly. That will make sure or guarantee that there is no chemical left in the water. Now, I have no problems with this running across the ground. I don't really want to run it through sprinklers. I don't want it touching the leaves of plants and things, but just on top of the grass, there's no problems with that. It won't be toxic to anything. Okay, so we've been running this for a little while now, and we've been pumping the chemical out, and you can see that the colour of the water has changed significantly. Is all the chemical out? We don't know. Let's see what happens. So there's some of the water. This is potassium permanganate. We want the colour to stay in the water. So we'll add 10 drops and we'll give it a bit of a swirl round. I might even give it a swirl with my finger. And you can see there that that colour has remained constant. That's telling me that the chemical has been removed from the water. That is now safe to feed up into water tanks, livestock watering, whatever the case may be. We've got a nice strong colour remaining in that water. If that goes clear, you need to keep pumping. We need to get rid of that chemical. Okay, so we're virtually finished now. We've drained my tank. We've put the bore back together. We know there's no chemical in the water because we've been pumping it out over the ground and we've tested it. The alternative is, instead of putting it out the ground here, you can actually run that water through your main line and go out to a sprinkler or wherever you want to go further away, and it will clean that mainline pipework out. So you don't have to dump the water just at the bore head. You can dump it anywhere, clean out those bores.